Welcome to the Smashville Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your trade addict host, Andrew Banta, joined by our analyst who swears he can predict the future, Will Ott. Get ready for armchair analysis, friendly banter, and a whole lot of fantasy fun. All right, welcome to Smashville Fantasy Football. We are about to start a Yahoo Fantasy Mock Draft. I've just chosen my room of 12 teams, and I happen to be the first pick just by random selection there. So we're going to just do a little practice run and see how the order of things goes and how that affects what I might pick. I know that I'm not seeking actively to get a quarterback early. Depending on how the draft goes, I could change that plan if Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes are available early, but I don't think it's too likely. They normally go pretty early, and I'm not going to reach for them this year. But having the first pick makes it super easy for me, because I think everyone should pick Christian McCaffrey first. There's just too much opportunity and upside there to ignore, and looking at the wide receivers or even the other running backs who come next, they just don't hold a candle to what McCaffrey can offer, even if he does take a little step backwards. I think he has a lot of buffer room. So McCaffrey is off the board now. I chose him with my first pick, and now I have a long time to wait until I get picks 2 and 3 back-to-back, since this is a snake draft style. As for who might end up falling to me now, I'm just looking at my rankings and cheat sheets to see. I'm probably going to be looking for a wide receiver here. I feel like if I don't get a wide receiver by round 2 and just go heavy on running backs, I'm going to be really suffering at wide receiver, because it's harder to plug in a replacement level wide receiver and have them carry your team than it is a replacement level running back. I feel very happy with McCaffrey, but unless there's just a running back who's been totally looked over, I don't know if I could get Derrick Henry somehow, which I don't think I will at that point. More likely it'll be around Travis Etienne or lower. I'm not going to be looking to do that. I'll probably grab, hopefully, a nice solid tier 2 wide receiver, or maybe high tier 3. If I could get Marvin Harrison Jr., that'd be amazing. In other mock drafts, he hasn't been falling that far. I might get someone like Davante Adams. I'd be perfectly happy with that, and we'll see what happens. My turn is in 12 picks. Off the board now are Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, Jonathan Taylor, Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley. No surprises there. Obviously, CD Lamb. Well, he was chosen third. Normally, he's been going second, but someone chose Tyreek Hill second this time. I would have chosen CD Lamb if I had been the second pick. We got Jamar Chase off the board, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Justin Jefferson. A.J. Brown was still available until just then. Now he was chosen. Marvin Harrison Jr. already went. So it's falling pretty predictably now. I'm just hoping I can get a Davante Adams. That would be nice. I might have to go as low as Brandon Ayuk. That would be acceptable to me as well. Not looking to get a quarterback yet, so I will hopefully get the best wide receiver available in 8 picks. Let's see who else is going off the board. Puka Nacua, he just went off the board. Everything's gone pretty well in order of the rankings that I have available in front of me. I use FantasyPros a lot for rankings. There haven't really been any surprises other than just a debate of one pick one way or the other. There goes Davante Adams. I hoped that people would wait on him, but they didn't this time. 5 picks until my turn now, so still quite a ways to go. I don't think he'll fall to me, but if Kyren Williams was still available, I might be tempted, and then I'd really need to load up on wide receivers later. I'd be pretty worried about my wide receiver core, but gosh, I had a good time with Kyren Williams last year. But he just got taken, so looks like he's not going to fall to me either. 3 picks left, and let's see here. Who else has gone? Chris Olave is gone. I'm seeing Josh Allen as a possible suggestion. I don't want to do it in round 2, but seeing as I do have the back-to-back pick, I could, because then I wouldn't be completely shut out of getting a wide receiver. Okay, I'm next. Ayuk was taken. Oh, that just kills me. He was taken right before I could go. So that really hurts. Liked him. I can get Drake London, and I think I probably will. Devon Achane is there. I'd feel good about him too. Let's get Drake London, and I have the ability to get either Devon Achane here or Josh Allen. I'm going to go against my usual move here, I think, and get Josh Allen. Having the first pick of the third round, I know he's not going to be there later, and neither will probably any of the top 6 running backs. I'm going to pop the cork, even though I hadn't planned on it, but just given that all those top tier wide receivers and running backs were taken in an expected order, and no one went even earlier on quarterbacks to give me an opening on perhaps jumping a few levels on a wide receiver or running back, I decided to alter my strategy and get Josh Allen. And I think you need to always be willing to be flexible if things don't go the way you were hoping. So now that I have him, that completely changes my strategy with quarterbacks. I'm not going to look to roll with 2 tier 3 quarterbacks like I probably would have otherwise. I'm just going to do Josh Allen or die and pick up a guy off the waiver wires if, heaven forbid, he got injured or when his bye week comes up. But now I'm really going to need to get probably a wide receiver here because it is getting a little scarce on the top tier guys. I still feel good about DJ Moore, even though he is on the Bears, and that can sometimes be a question mark for players because they don't have a very productive offense. I'd be very happy with DK Metcalf as well. Jalen Waddle's there, Nico Collins. Cooper Kupp, people think he's going to have a down year, but I'm not passing him up if he's available, and some of those guys I just mentioned are not, because I'm going to rely on skill and past performance. I'm not counting him out. He's just too good for me to think he'd fall off too much. This has him as a tier 4 running back. I would still put him tier 3 and maybe even mid to high tier 3 personally. Devon Achane is still available. I'm a little surprised. I've seen him go a little earlier a lot of times. I have 14 picks to go, so a lot is going to happen. In this particular draft, there are tight ends required in the starting lineup. That's not how Smashville Fantasy Football does it. I'm going to mostly ignore them unless Sam Laporta or Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews fell really far, because I'm practicing for our actual draft first and foremost, so I don't care too much to get a tight end unless they were really being forgotten about, which I don't think they will be for too long. Sam Laporta will probably be scooped up pretty soon, I would imagine. I see Rachaad White still on the board, even after guys like Joe Mixon, Josh Jacobs, James Cook have been taken. That might be tempting to do. I also like Kenneth Walker, who's available. I could get convinced to take them, especially since I do get back-to-back picks. I like that a lot about being the first pick in a draft. Not only do you get the best guy on the board, but you get the chance to get guys back-to-back the rest of the rounds. And even though you're waiting for what seems like an interminable amount of time, you don't have to make gut-wrenching calls. You can get both, have your cake and eat it too. If you are 50-50 on one guy versus another, why not both? I'll probably get myself a wide receiver and a running back here and not have to make such a difficult choice. DK Metcalf is gone. DJ Moore still available. He probably won't be by the time it comes to me, unfortunately. I could see Rachaad White will probably be gone too. But I might get a guy like Malik Neighbors, Stephon Diggs, who people are really counting out in the average draft position. He's being drafted as the wide receiver 18. Is Kenneth Walker still available? I think I can get Kenneth Walker. Let's see here. Okay, so I get 2 picks here. I can get Kenneth Walker, which I'm pretty happy about, and then a wide receiver too. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll be looking later in the draft to get Kenneth Walker's handcuff as well. Only have 5 seconds left. Kenneth Walker. And then for my wide receiver, guys have gone pretty predictably in order of their tier list, really without large exception. I could get George Pickens, T. Higgins, Zay Flowers has burned me before. I'll probably skip over him. Tank Dell, Christian Kirk, Terry McLaurin. I'm going to go with George Pickens, though. Perhaps a little bit early, but that's just because there's really been no surprises in this mock draft, and the wide receivers and running backs have been going in ADP order pretty quickly, and no one's made any dumb decisions that I've noticed, except possibly me drafting Josh Allen the first pick of the 3rd round. Maybe that's the dumbest decision so far. Time would tell throughout the season. Let's see, I've got 20 picks now to my next turn. Feeling pretty good about running back with Christian McCaffrey, Kenneth Walker. I'll eventually try to get to back up Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, Sometimes he goes earlier than you'd think, simply because he's decent in his own right if you're looking at the later rounds. So I can't just feel safe waiting until round 13, 14 to get him, because someone often takes him then. Elijah Mitchell I can usually get later, though, for Christian McCaffrey's handcuff. I would probably do it in that order, even though Christian McCaffrey is my bell cow and I want a plan B if he does get injured. But yeah, I feel pretty good about running backs. Wide receivers don't feel that great, but you have to make trade-offs. I have the top tier quarterback and the very top ranked running back, so obviously wide receiver was bound to suffer at that point. So all I can do is try to shore it up, make sure I have enough of them so that if some guys really don't pan out, the other guys have a chance too. So I'm probably going to end up by the end of the draft having stacked more wide receivers than running backs, whereas other times I might end up with even one more running back than I have wide receivers, or more 50-50. But given the weakness of my wide receiver core, I'm going to have to do it a little differently here. I was really open to having one position being stronger than the other. I didn't know if it was going to be running back or wide receiver until I got really to my second round pick and saw how things had gone. Obviously, getting the first pick, being able to get Christian McCaffrey, that's leaning towards your running back side a little more heavily, because the next best wide receiver on the board was either Drake London or I think Mike Evans was available. That's not really top tier guys anymore. It's already a tier 3 guy, which is tough, especially when there's less likely to be just a breakthrough wide receiver that no one was expecting compared to running backs, where a guy on waivers may suddenly make a name for himself. 8 picks to my turn now. Off the board, we've started to get the next tier down running backs gone, which makes me very happy about getting Kenneth Walker locked in. Alvin Kamara is gone, David Montgomery, Aaron Jones, Ramondre Stevenson, James Conner, all gone. Najee Harris still available, Zamir White, Raheem Mostert, DeAndre Swift, but I'm probably not going to get any of those guys because I'm pretty good right now. I'll pass them over. Coming up in what's listed as tier 5 on FantasyPros, we got a lot of very solid guys that I'd feel happy with having. Terry McLaurin, Chris Godwin, Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins. Christian Watson is a little further down, but all of those guys I'd feel really good about having. So I have a lot of options, and I can hopefully get 2 from that list. I'm pretty sure I will, unless the next 5 picks just go completely against me and all 5 of those guys are taken. Raheem Mostert has been drafted off the board, so he's no longer there to tempt me. Even though he's from Purdue and I love him, I don't think he'd fit my team right now with the way the draft's gone. He'd be in my flex spot, but I think there's better options when I've already gotten pretty good running backs in there. 4 picks to go. Let's see who was just taken. George Kittle. So as far as tight ends, I haven't even paid much attention to them because they're not my interest, but all the top tight ends have been taken. Laporta, Kelsey, McBride, Andrews, Kittle, Pitts. They're all gone. My turn, I can get Terry McLaurin, and I'm very happy to do so. I will definitely get him with my next pick. And now, back-to-back picks again. Hooray. I could jump up for another pretty solid running back in Najee Harris, but I think I need to shore up my wide receivers because I'm not feeling so great about that yet. So let's get Chris Godwin. He's still available. Now, the formulas and suggestions disagree with me on that. They strongly suggested another running back like Harris, Swift, or Pollard, or even Brian Robinson, but I just think I needed more wide receivers. That's my 4th wide receiver, and all of them are going to end up with significant playing time once you factor in injuries and bye weeks. Sometimes you have to be willing to go against what it's telling you to do and just have your own criteria and your own team balance. Najee Harris is now gone. I have a very long 18 picks till my next one, so we'll just see who's going now. I think probably now you're going to start to see those other wide receivers I mentioned get taken off the board, and that's why I took 2 back-to-back, because I don't think if I waited, I'd have a chance at a Calvin Ridley or DeAndre Hopkins. I think I'd be left with really guys that I don't want to end up starting, like Tyler Lockett, maybe Cortland Sutton, Xavier Worthy. I don't want it to fall that far. I've really got my starting lineup locked in at this point, and I'm just looking for guys with upside or guys to replace with injuries. I'm not quite ready to jump on handcuff for Kenneth Walker yet. Zach Charbonnet, I'm going to try to wait. But we'll see. At this point, I don't have it really locked in my mind if I'm going to get a wide receiver now or another running back, because I did get those 2 wide receivers back to back. I'm pretty good at both. I think it'll be who I consider the next best available player. Calvin Ridley's available. I'm almost positive he won't be when it's my turn in 12 picks. Tony Pollard's available. Devin Singletary, Javonte Williams, all available. I don't expect any of them to be available for long. Jaden Reed was just taken. He wasn't really on my watch list. Really nothing against him. He's just not a guy I've researched as much. Someone just took Ladd McConkey. He is quite farther down the list, so that's a little bit out of order. DeAndre Hopkins still available. Could it be possible? Could I get him? Could I get Tony Pollard? I just don't see how it could happen. At some point for this draft, I will need to get a tight end. No one great's available. Evan Ingram has had good years, has had terrible years. David Njoku, Dallas Goedert, Brock Bowers. Maybe I'll get Brock Bowers much, much later in the double-digit rounds, but not really jumping at the bit to getting any of those guys. I could just get whoever from the tight ends and be okay. Not even looking at defenses or kickers until the last 2 rounds. I could get tempted into a defense in the 13th round if a great one was available, but it normally doesn't work out that way. I'm happy not doing a second quarterback. So really, I have the freedom to just fill up with wide receivers and running backs for a little while, and especially get those handcuffs. I don't want to wait too long on them, but I think I can still wait a tiny bit. My next turn's in 3 picks. Who else has been taken here? People jumped on the defenses. We have the 49ers and Jets off the board. Good for them. I don't want them now. So that's great. Every pick that goes to a defense or, heaven forbid, a kicker this early is a better wide receiver running back that's available for me. So that is awesome. As far as the quarterbacks, the top 11 have been taken. Yeah, I'm perfectly happy having Josh Allen there. All right, we have Ezekiel Elliott gone. Tony Pollard still available. I might have to do it. I have not seen him fall this far. Is he still available? He's still available. His ADP's 82. I've seen him drafted higher than that. I'm just going to have to get him now and figure out how to make it all work later. Now, I'll definitely want another wide receiver. Let's see who we can get. Oh my gosh, I can get DeAndre Hopkins. Wow, things are really breaking well for me now. Guys that I did not think I had a chance of getting have fallen to me. I mean, yeah, DeAndre Hopkins' ADP is only 93, and it's pick 97, but I have not had him available at this time other mock drafts, so that's great. I'm feeling really good about my running backs and wide receivers now. Running back, just to run through it again, we got Christian McCaffrey, Kenneth Walker, Tony Pollard. Wide receivers, Drake London, George Pickens, Terry McLaurin, Chris Godwin, DeAndre Hopkins. While I'm sure Drake London and George Pickens will outperform some of the others, I almost love more that I have Chris Godwin and DeAndre Hopkins, just because they've fallen so far down the board, and maybe I'm stuck in the past and looking at them through rose-colored glasses, but I have just such great memories of them on my teams in past years that I still want them, and I'm happy to have them on my team. I don't know if production will follow, but some of it is also just having a team that you love and are excited about. That's got to be a part of it. It's more fun if they're people whose play you know and you recognize than guys that you don't follow as much through the years. As far as other running backs, I'm not looking for another standalone running back at this point. Javonte Williams is still available. Austin Eckler, great guys, but for my team, I'm not likely to need the 4th and 5th running backs in my lineup, except if Christian McCaffrey or Kenneth Walker get injured. So really, it makes more sense to get their handcuff, because those projections for Charbonnet and Elijah Mitchell are going to skyrocket if those top guys do get injured. So I'm drafting for upside at this point. And there's not really any other wide receivers I'm targeting. I have 5. Sometimes I get 6. no one is really jumping out at me. Xavier Worthy was one who I thought maybe, but he was just taken with the 10th pick of the 9th round, I think. Tyler Lockett's available, but I'm not too interested in him anymore, even though years ago he was amazing. Jackson Smith and Jigaba, Jordan Addison are available. I could see getting them, but I think I might want to get Zach Charbonnet next, even in the 10th round for me. Still got a ways to go. 9th round, guys, where are we? I took Hopkins. Tua at QB was taken. We had Chase Brown taken. Keon Coleman. Defenses and kickers have started to be taken. Ravens taken. Justin Tucker taken. Aubrey taken. Butker taken for kickers. I'm glad people are taking them. That gives me better options later and less chance that someone's going to take Zach Charbonnet, who I'm targeting. It would definitely be early to take Charbonnet if I did not have Kenneth Walker. But since I do, that changes things. Because I'm only going to play whoever I draft in this spot if Walker gets injured. I think at this point I could draft him above his ADP. Let's see what his ADP is anyway. His ADP is 127. We're at pick 116. Yeah, I'd be reaching a little if I didn't have a different makeup of my team. But since I do have to consider what my team's makeup is, I feel pretty good taking him here. Javonte Williams at running back was just taken. He's one of the last guys that could really tempt me to take a guy that doesn't fit my team makeup as much. And frankly, at that point, he'd probably be trade fodder. I could trade him or Pollard. I wouldn't want to keep them both because I'd be too stacked with good to mid-tier guys when I really just need my top 2 guys and their handcuffs at this point, and maybe one other guy. I like it sometimes when temptations get taken away like that, because I think he was taken below his ADP. I'll have to double check because I am on the clock. I'm going to go ahead and take Charbonnet. And now the question is, should I wait on Elijah Mitchell or just go ahead and take care of business and get him now? I don't really see any other wide receivers or running backs that I need. I could get a tight end. No one too tempting is available. Let's go ahead and get Elijah Mitchell and just take care of business. Oh, shoot. And I just made a mistake there. I could not get to the draft button fast enough while talking. So it made the decision for me. It took Dallas Goedert at tight end. I did need a tight end, and he was the next one I would have taken. So it doesn't ruin things with me. Mitchell will probably be available, so it probably doesn't really change anything for me. But I need to work on my familiarity with the platform so I can make my way around the navigation better, especially when I'm switching screens. I'm looking at rankings and research and stuff. I need to make sure come actual draft day that I'm more comfortable with that so that I don't do any dumb errors like I just did. So let's look at the tight ends. Yeah, I got Goedert. He's ranked the 11th tight end, tier 3 guy, but he was the next guy on the board. Normally I pass him up just because I wait even longer at tight end. I wouldn't advise that for everyone. It's just that I'm in a league that tight end is a flex. You can have wide receiver or tight ends. I really don't value the tight ends much in our format. Defensive is available. Steelers are available. Bills, Texans. I'd feel okay about any of those. I'm not going to get them quite yet at around 12, though. I don't think I need to get a second quarterback yet because they're probably only going to play 1 week if everything goes well. I'll definitely get Mitchell next round. That'll take completely care of my running backs. I got 5 wide receivers. I could add Brandon Cooks. I could add Mike Williams recovering from an ACL tear. Guys that could have upside but don't need to play right away. Brandon Cooks has burned me before. It's been hard to rely on certain times. Jerry Jeudy, he really burned me last year. I drafted him way too early, and he's fallen so far. But I think it just left a bad taste in my mouth. I'm not very interested in him. Adam Thielen is available. He's fallen so far, and it's hard to just not respect him anymore. He started the wide receiver 11 overall through 11 weeks. Oh, here we go. Okay, time to make some decisions. Let's get Mitchell in. Where do I search? Okay, Mitchell. Take care of that. We got Mitchell. Now, who do I want next? Don't really want another tight end. I could get a backup quarterback. What's my defenses? I could do Steelers here at pick 13. That's about the earliest I said I'd do. Yeah, why not? Let's do the Steelers. That was just a matter of I didn't have anyone else really jumping out at me on my wish list. I'm not really looking for any more running backs. We're back. It looks like I got disconnected there. I'm not sure when that happened, but we finished up the draft. My last pick was Baker Mayfield. So to run through my team one more time, we got Josh Allen at QB, Drake London first wide receiver, George Pickens next. This isn't in draft order. This is just looking at my lineup. Running backs, I feel much better about than the wide receivers, obviously, because that was my focus, the way the players were falling. We got Christian McCaffrey and Kenneth Walker. I got their handcuffs, Zach Charbonnet, Elijah Mitchell. Really ironclad playing at running back this time around. Tight end, we got Dallas Goedert, solid. Terry McLaurin is my flex guy at wide receiver. I think that's a great option. Could do much worse. Jason Sanders, my kicker. Pittsburgh's my defense. Solid, nothing to write home about. Then bench, I feel really good about some of these guys. On the bench, we have wide receiver Chris Godwin. We got Tony Pollard. We got DeAndre Hopkins, the aforementioned Charbonnet and Mitchell. And then finally, Baker Mayfield as a backup QB. Should something happen, I think I could make do with him for the whole season. I think this draft went really well. So let's look at what the analysis says for me. FantasyPros gives me a consensus grade, and it has said you get an A+, 97 out of 100. So it's liked what I did. Go click Analyze here. Position ranks I like looking at. Overall, said I was first. Starters, first. Bench, second. That's pretty rare to see both ranked first and or second, so that's great. Normally, if I load up my bench, it's because I really neglected a position like quarterback. Normally, my starters are much lower if my bench is high, which is okay because I know guys are going to get injured and some of those bench players are going to end up starters after a few weeks of the season. But to have both be ranked high just feels awesome. QB, first. Running back, first. Wide receiver, here's where I made a sacrifice. I'm the 10th ranked team for wide receivers, 10th ranked for tight end. No big loss at tight end. Feel bad at wide receiver, but had to be done. Flex, 6th. 8th at defense. 4th at kicker. This is one of the better drafts I'd had. I think the best I had, at least as far as FantasyPros analysis goes, is 98. So 97, pretty close. And I think maybe this team even feels a little better to me. Some insights. You drafted 2 players ranked in the top 3 at their position. Obviously, ranked first, Christian McCaffrey, Josh Allen. I love to have 2 guys ranked number 1. I don't have to really second guess if I'm starting them any week. Doesn't matter the matchup. They're matchup proof. It thinks that maybe I could have drafted Austin Eckler and drafted a tight end later. I think I'd commented on looking at Austin Eckler as a temptation thing, but really it just came to the makeup of my team. I just didn't need another running back at all. It says I could finish 20 points higher, but it's hard to predict how things are going to shake out when you have injuries and bye weeks and everything else. So many things are going to change. You never know. Week 9, I have a lot of players on bye. There's always going to be some bye week that's tougher than the others. So I don't worry about that until the time comes and I'll figure it out. I really don't factor in bye weeks at all. I'd be okay to just bite the bullet if every single player had the same bye week. It would kind of be amazing, honestly, if I could just take a loss one week and not worry about buys anymore. It says Baker Mayfield was a steal in the final round. He had been going 2 rounds earlier. Here, I expected it would say this about Mitchell, Charbonnet, or both, but it says I reached for him. I'm not going to cry about it, though, because he fits my strategy, he fits my team. I don't think FantasyPros takes handcuffs into account, really. And even though we'd probably still be there later, there wasn't anyone I was sacrificing to take him. So here we have overall projected rankings. Number 1, starters, number 1. Awesome in a rare situation. Bench, number 2. Looks like for some reason it didn't bring in the names of the teams, but that's okay. Team 8 went really heavy on their wide receivers and running backs, which is what I typically do. Has experts, says who likes my draft and which players they really are a fan of. It's funny. You normally get the exact opposite and the thumbs down, the thumbs up. It's, oh, we loved Drake London and George Pickens and Tony Pollard. And then on the other side, you'll get, oh, I hate Drake London, George Pickens and Tony Pollard. So you just don't know. I don't worry too much about the thumbs down ones. This is probably the least valuable page to me, actually. Steals and reaches. Usually I like to try to get 2 steals in there. Obviously, you're not going to get a steal in the first 6 rounds. Things are too predictable at that point. no one's going to forget about a player like Kenneth Walker and let you get him 2 rounds later. I would have liked to get another steal in here, but I think because I went heavy on handcuffs, it really kneecapped some of my ability to do that. But yeah, Baker Mayfield, I'll take it. We can do a value pick. Okay, here in the mid rounds, you can have a chance at value picks. I'm almost surprised I didn't get Tony Pollard 2 rounds late. It felt like he was falling so far. And he is not a guy that I was looking to get, especially with that makeup of my team, especially compared to the mock drafts I had been doing. Pollard was going earlier, and to see him still on the board there, I couldn't resist. He was a value pick for me. DeAndre Hopkins, I think I said the same thing at the time. I was surprised he was still on the board. And Dallas Goedert. I can't take credit for that one. That was the one pick the computer picked for me because I was slow on the button. But I was going to get Elijah Mitchell there. So maybe it's for the best that I didn't, because Goedert probably wouldn't have been available in round 12, pick 12. Let's see if I made any bonehead reaches. I know reach is going to tell me Elijah Mitchell. Yep. But no one else. So you got to ignore it sometimes when it's saying don't draft a guy, because it makes sense for my team. No slight reaches. Not even Charbonnet. Yeah, he'd been going around there. That's why I was a little worried about leaving him for later. Obviously, I had the next pick. But yeah, if I had left him for round 13, I don't think I would have got him. Pick analysis. Here's where it says who I could have done instead. It would have suggested I picked Austin Eckler instead of Dallas Goedert. I just didn't need running backs at that point. And then instead in round 12, done Pat Freiermuth. Wouldn't have had Dallas Goedert available at that point, but I guess it considers Freiermuth close enough. It says don't do Elijah Mitchell. I respectfully disagree for my team makeup. Let's see, some of the others. All the issues it has center largely around Elijah Mitchell. Aaron Rodgers, I only missed by, I think, 1 spot. I really have no idea how he's going to be this year, so it's hard to feel one way or the other about him at this point. But yeah, I think that draft went really well. Team strengths. Whoa, this is great. I normally have a team much more unbalanced than this. I'll have, if you look at this little, I don't know what you call it, like spider web graph or whatever, I'll normally have ones that go into number 12, and then you have something that spikes at number 1. It's obviously further towards the outside of the circle is a 1 rank. At the very center is the 12th rank. Blue is your starters, and yellow is your bench. I rarely get one that actually looks somewhat like a circle in any way. It's almost like usually a starfish of trade-offs of one position versus another, but I think I managed to be relatively well balanced. Wide receiver was my trade-off, but even that wasn't a total disaster. It's not like I have the 12th ranked wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, and flex spot. I'm just bulletproof at QB and RB, and really good at kicker even, and my flex spot. So yeah, wide receivers being ranked 9th, that's fine by me. Feels good. Here's a draft board. I can kind of look through it, and this is snake draft, so it shows you the flow of guys I drafted down there. Then I had to wait all the way down to here to get Drake London and Josh Allen back to back. I like to see what might have happened if I didn't jump on a QB that early. That is the earliest I would jump on a QB. I think I'll refuse to do it in round 1 or round 2. So round 3, pick 1. That's the earliest I might have taken him, because that's pushing it a little bit. But I think Josh Allen is pretty near unanimously considered to be the top QB prospect this year, and he would have been gone for sure by round 4 when I would have had my pick here at the end. Once you pop the cork on them, you start getting the other guys pretty quickly, and I knew that Jalen Hurts would be gone, Lamar Jackson would be gone, Patrick Mahomes would be gone. Anthony Richardson, I would love to get if I could get him in round 7. It's just not going to happen, and I think it's a big question mark. He could be the QB1 this year. I don't know. Or he could be the 20th. I just have no idea. If he gets injured, which is a very high possibility as we saw last year, I'm not wasting a top 4 round pick on him. I'm not wasting a top 5 round pick. I could be tempted in round 6, but so far I've not even had the opportunity to consider it there. A lot of the QBs are just going early, and if I don't get one of those top 3, I guess top 4 since Mahomes went 4th, usually he's been going 3rd. If I don't get them, I'm content to wait all the way down to the Tuas. Justin Herbert is normally available round 13. He went a little earlier this time. I'd be happy with Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Trevor Lawrence. He's normally been going a little before Herbert, so they switched this time. I'm fine waiting if I don't get the top guys. There's just too many question marks around Anthony Richardson. CJ Stroud should probably be amazing, honestly. I might rank Stroud a little higher than Richardson, but you don't know if he's going to have a low regression to the mean this year. I might be tempted in round 6, but not since I got Josh Allen. Dak Prescott, I think round 6 is too early. I've got him other years and been happy with him, but I'd be looking for him at round 10, maybe round 9, but probably round 10. Let's see if there's anything else where I feel like I made a horrible mistake. Marvin Harris never falls. I'm not willing to take him in round 1, and he just seems to go immediately round 2. Gosh, I thought Kyren Williams was going to fall to me for a minute. That would have been interesting. That would have been awesome, though. I got Kyren Williams last year off the waiver wire. And yeah, he was pretty untested, but he got his shot, and he was a league winner for me. Kenneth Walker, felt great about. George Pickens, here's just a gap in my knowledge where I don't know much about him. I just trusted the rankings at that point and threw him in there, knowing that I need a wide receiver there. I wasn't ready yet to take a guy like Terry McLaurin, or definitely not Chris Godwin yet. Even Keenan Allen, I wasn't that comfortable with him in round 5. Fell back on the software where I'm not sure. This section of rounds 6 through 9 was great. Even if it's not telling me I got steals here, I felt like I got steals here. Terry McLaurin was not normally falling to me. Let's see, he's 31st wide receiver. I feel good about him. I can't believe I got Godwin and Hopkins. I thought I might get one or neither of them, and then Pollard fell so far. Then I just shored up my backup plans there with Charbonnet and Mitchell. I was able to take defense and kickers around early each. Let's see who I would have wound up with at defense if I didn't wait, because I was a little unsure about that. I could have taken Aaron Rodgers. That would have been who I would have done if I didn't do a defense there. I could have done Aaron Rodgers here in round 13. Then I wouldn't have got the Steelers, most likely. I wouldn't have got the Texans. Wouldn't have got Dolphins. Wouldn't have got Bills. If I thought I could get the Bills, I would have waited. I didn't think I would get them. Wouldn't have got Vikings. Wouldn't have got Packers. I'd have to wait for Eagles or Bears or Saints. Yeah, I feel like Steelers are a step above them. I'll draft the Eagles or Saints for sure, other drafts, but not at the expense of getting the Steelers there. And then as far as kicker goes, if I hadn't done kicker there, I would have missed out on Sanders probably. Matt Gay, he went a little earlier. It's round 15. I think most times he was going undrafted, actually. I can't remember who I was getting instead right now, but Matt Gay was normally there still at the end of the draft, because sometimes I've got him just being an Indianapolis Colts fan. I could have got him, but Sanders is generally ranked higher. Tyler Bass, Dustin Hopkins, Evan McPherson. Evan McPherson would be all right, but I don't know. It probably won't make too large of a difference there. But I think Baker Mayfield's a bigger certainty this year than Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers' ceiling is higher, but his floor is lower. Who knows? So I feel really good about this draft. I am very happy with how things worked out. I didn't feel like guys were getting stolen from me a few picks before I was about to get them. That's great. Things will not go the same in the Smashville Fantasy Football real draft. That's just a reality. It's not going to happen like that. QBs are going to go much earlier in our draft. There's not a focus on tight ends, but some people will still take tight ends early. They'll just value them like wide receivers, even though I don't value them as high as wide receivers of equivalent stature. Some of the defenses and even kickers are going to go earlier. So if anything, I expect my team makeup to be better in the Smashville Fantasy Football Draft. I'm not going to get a Josh Allen, though. That's the trade-off. But I'll probably have guys even a little bit better at wide receiver and running back, and I'm okay with that trade-off. But I just couldn't pass up Josh Allen this time. I had the opportunity to get the top guy, so I took it. So sometimes I'm practicing specifically for the real draft. Other times I just try to make the best team I can. And this time I made the best team I can, even though it's not going to look like our real draft, almost certainly. The important takeaways are to have a plan going in, have guys that you're looking to get if they're being skipped over even a little bit, but be willing to change your plan. I'm okay going heavier on running backs or heavier on wide receivers. I don't come in saying I'm doing a 0 RB or zero wide receiver strategy, or I'm definitely drafting a late round quarterback. I think I'm going to draft a late round quarterback, but if I get a top running back and an okay wide receiver, and then I can get the first quarterback off the board, I'll do it and then not worry about it anymore. It'll help me sleep at night, not having to draft two QBs otherwise of roughly equal value and then think every week, are they going to have the better game? Are they playing indoors? What's the matchup like? Josh Allen, I'm playing him regardless of matchup. That's going to be a little less mental load, and I can really focus on other positions that I'm going to play. I think in the standard week, not counting for buys or injuries, there's not going to be too many questions about who I play. Let me pull up my team one more time. Every week I'm playing Josh Allen, Christian McCaffrey, Kenneth Walker, Drake London, George Pickens, Terry McLaurin without fail. The only one that could maybe change is Terry McLaurin based on how games have been going, maybe matchups. I might sub Tony Pollard or Chris Godwin in there for him, but I don't really see DeAndre Hopkins jumping over him many times. Then obviously Steelers and Sanders. So there are really no question marks on my roster week one, which is more than I can say some years when I draft. Some years I'm like, I don't know who's going to be my flex spot because I was really reaching for one. Obviously, McCaffrey or Walker get injured, I have guys ready to go. Wide receivers, if they get injured, handcuffs don't really work for wide receivers, so that's why I didn't look for any. It doesn't always translate into more value for the next wide receiver on the depth chart. So really, I just not look to replace him off waivers with a handcuff. I'd be just looking at Godwin, Hopkins, Pollard in the flex spot. Otherwise, just plugging in the guys for the bye weeks. I think I have pretty obvious subs here. Injury subs and bye week subs. We'll see what changes during the season because there's always things you can't predict. But I don't think there's anyone from this list that I'm dropping and switching out before week one. In most years, there are one or even two players or special teams like defense that I end up dropping to just switch out because I made a dumb draft decision and second guessed myself. So I think this was a success and it's good practice. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
That's it for this episode of the Smashville Fantasy Football Podcast. As always, we have aspirations of adequacy, so come back and we'll try to do a bit better next time. Who knows, we may even reveal that one sneaky trick guaranteed to win your fantasy league. But until then, keep those trades rolling and get your lineup set before kickoff. See you next week.